starting point. So how much should the perfectly competitive firm produce? And so that comes down to this big question of, you know, what, and reworded, what is the profit maximizing quantity? So you're going to hear that term a lot, and you're going to see it on a test, or you know, if you look at your test question that I just gave you, there's a big, you know, it says what quantity will the firm produce is number 4, what quantity will the industry produce, that's number 5, you know, number 14, what quantity will the industry produce in the long run, number 13, what quantity will the industry produce in the short run. And so it comes down to this is a big question. It's 4 of those 17 questions on this handout are all about quantity. And if you don't get the profit maximizing quantity, then you kind of mess up the question. So that's what we're going to focus on. So the answer to this question is how much they should produce is real simple. Okay, it's they produce, the company will produce. They will produce at the quantity where marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost. That's the key. Okay, so the marginal revenue, remember from before, the marginal revenue is the. I didn't. Oh, good to know you're here. Okay, so anyway, so we have the marginal revenue is the marginal cost. So the marginal revenue, if you remember that, you guys, it's from last class. It's the additional revenue that comes in when you sell one more unit. So if I sell this next item, then that's the money that I get. The marginal cost is how much money it took me to put that item out there, to get that item out to the customer. And we have here, so here's the marginal revenue here, and here's the marginal cost. So in this question, we went through this last class, but we go through it real quick again. We're going to look at the profit. So the profit is just the total revenue minus the total cost. And then the marginal profit, that's what this is. So, and profit, the pi sign means profit. Okay, so that's, this would be your additional or your marginal profit. And it's going to be the difference between the marginal revenue and the marginal cost. So the marginal revenue here is 12, and the marginal cost is 9. So there's an addition of $3 to the profit. Okay, so what is the profit? The profit is the total revenue minus the total cost. So here it's negative 17 because there is no revenue and our costs are 17. So our fixed costs, right, the cost that the company incurs even when they're not producing anything, is equal to negative 17, right? So it's 17 is the cost. So without any revenue, you're losing money. Now you've added $3 by selling this item. So when the company sells the first item, they bring in $3 of profit. So that lowers their loss, right? They have a loss of 17. Now they only have a loss of 40. And then they go to the next one. Individually, they make this decision of, should I produce the next one? Should I produce the next item? Should I make this exchange? And making the exchange decision is all based on this question of, is the marginal revenue greater than marginal cost? If it's greater than marginal cost, that means they're making profit. Right? So that's the key. If they're making money off of the item, or at least not losing money, then they're going to continue to make this quantity. The quantity's going to keep rising, and they're going to continue under the exchanges. Okay, so let's go through the next one. So this time, their marginal revenue is 12, their marginal cost is 8, so they make another $4, add more of this, so now they're losing 10. Then they go from 12 is the marginal revenue, and 6 is the marginal cost, so they make $6 more. So add 6 to this, that's -4. Now on this one they go 12 is the marginal revenue and 4 is the marginal cost, so they make $8 on that one, so they add 4. So now they're in the positives for profit. They should keep going because they're making money. Every time they sell a good, they're making more money. So they're, okay, we'll keep going, keep going. And then they get marginal revenue and marginal cost again, so they make another $4 here. This 12 is higher than 8. Then 12 and 10, they make another $2. So we're up to, oops, sorry, 4 and 4, that'd be 8. And then this would be 10, okay? So the next one is, so we'll keep going because the marginal revenue is greater than marginal cost, and now 12 and 12, so now they're even, so they're not making any money on this, but the exchange would be here. And then here, what happens on 12 and 16? It goes down. They lose $4. So what happens then? They lose money, right? So should they make that exchange? No. So how much should they produce then? Should they produce this 8th unit? Yes or no? No. So that means they should stop at the 7. I'm going to kind of box that in, or attempt to. So if you look, there's a couple things that happen here that are worth noting. Number one, marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost. So that's what I said before. Marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost, and you found your profit maximizing quantity, which in this case is 7. And the other thing that's worth noting is if you just look at the profit, they maximize their profit right here. So you can find out the top quantity that they should produce by looking at the profit or by looking at marginal revenue and marginal cost. Right? So you might say, well, why didn't they stop at 6? Because they made money at 6. So they kept going. And here they didn't make any money. That's plenty of times. Remember, you have to remember this is economic profit too. So that means they're covering all of their costs, including their opportunity costs here. They're not losing money by selling this 7th unit. They're just not making an economic profit. So they stopped there because if they kept going, then they would lose money. If they kept producing this last one, they would have really lost a lot of money because they would have been on -18. Okay, so that's what we did with that. And so now, are there any questions about that? So, yes?
So the question was, what would they be making the highest economic profit? You would say producing 6?
You would say 7. I mean, if you said 6, it's okay. There's nothing wrong if you had a graph of saying that they could make the profit would be the same as at 6 and 7. But if you had a graph, which is what we're going to mainly be dealing with, then you're going to look for on the graph, you're going to look for the point where the marginal revenue and the marginal cost are intersecting, and where they're the same. And that gives you the answer to your question. And so, it's not always, but it's not always going to be like that clear cut where it's going to be even, right? And so what if so your question's really good. What if this was like a 14? This was a 12 and this was a 14. Then you would have said, well, it's very clear that even though marginal revenue is not equal to marginal cost, they shouldn't produce this next one because they would have lost money. So they would come back here. Okay? So you look for the point where, the last point where the marginal revenue is either greater than or equal to the marginal cost. Okay? All right, good question. Any other questions? So does everybody have this down? Okay, because now I start the graph part, and the graph part is going to be a little bit long and intensive. Okay. You sure? So we're good with all this. I'll try to leave this up long enough so that you can refer back to it. But here's what it looks like graphically. There are going to be, in total, there's going to be 4 different scenarios that are going to be represented on these 2 graphs. So here's what we're looking at. Right? We're looking at a perfectly competitive market. And we're looking at two different parts of it. Number one, we look at the firm. The firm is the individual company in the market. And remember, the output of the company, of the firm, is a little q. And then in this other graph, we're going to look at the entire industry. So we look at the industry, and the industry's output is going to be a big Q. Because the little q, obviously, will be a little smaller than the big Q. In other words, the company is just one of many. So a company might produce 10 units, and the industry might produce 10,000 units. Okay, so we're going to figure out how much the industry produces, how much the company produces, and everything else from there. Okay, we're also going to put the prices here on this axis, and a lot of other things. And on this axis, we're going to put the price and just kind of do it like that. Right? Then, we're going to start with the industry. And we're going to assume that the industry could be something that's a competitive industry. So it could be like like the examples I gave you last time, like nail salons or lawn mowing, like landscaping, something like that anything can get into. And there's an industry demand for it. So that would be a typical demand curve. So this is your industry demand curve. And then there's an industry supply curve. That's not anything unusual, right? That's what we did at the beginning of this class, is we just did supply and demand for the first test. And so this is nothing different than you've seen before. So what do you think this supply and demand diagram is going to tell us? Two things, right? What are they?
Equilibrium.
Okay, so the equilibrium what? Price and the equilibrium quantity. So we're going to get the price here. I'm going to draw a line over like that, and that's going to tell us the price. And then I'm going to draw a line down here, and this is going to tell us the quantity. So far, so good, right? Nothing new. All right, now here's where it goes into the firm. All right, what price is this company going to charge? The equilibrium price. So they are taking the price from here. So let's just say in our example here, the price was 12. I'll put that right there. Then that means that there's going to be the same price. I could draw the line straight over here. And that will be my price that's going to be charged in the industry. So they too will charge a price of 12. So whenever you see the questions like you have on your sheet here, if you see what price will the industry charge, what price will the firm charge, it's going to be the same answer. Because the firm is taking the price from the industry. So whatever happens over here in the industry, then that's going to impact the firm. So if I just said, okay, let's look at, I'm just going to get rid of some lines to clear it up a little bit. But if I just said, hey, what would happen if there was a recession and people started losing lots of money and this is the business for landscaping. Okay, so this is landscaping, getting your lawn mowed. What would happen? Well, probably the demand for landscaping would go down, and we'd have a shift of the demand curve this way, and the price would drop for all the companies in the industry. Okay, so something that happens at the industry level is going to affect all the individual firms in the industry. Does that make sense? Yes or no? Okay, so now we have this demand curve. This is also going to be our marginal revenue line. Because remember what we said before last class, our demand is relationship between Q and price. So if I plot these 2 points, right, the relationship between Q and P, I get this horizontal line going across at 12. And the marginal revenue line here is going to be a relationship between marginal revenue and quantity. And in that case, the marginal revenue is 12 all the way down, and the quantity is 1 through 10, or 1 through 9. So it's the same line. Okay, so the marginal revenue line, so that's good. All right, now all we need to now figure out the cost I mean, and all we need to do to figure out the quantity or where they're going to produce is have a marginal cost curve. So there's a marginal cost curve that comes in, and I can, if you look here, it starts at 9, 8, 6, 4, 8, and then goes up to 10 when we're, and 12 when we're at 7. So I know it looks something like this. That's what my marginal cost curve looks like. And that's the same marginal cost diagram that we did when we did the cost curves. It's the same thing. So there's your marginal cost curve. Where do these two intersect at? What quantity? What would that give me? That would be, if I draw this line down, this would be equal to what in this example? What? 7. So this is not only, in this kind of example, it's 7, but this is going to be what I call my Q star, little Q star, and the little Q star is the profit maximizing quantity that this company will produce. So just looking at your paper that you have in front of you, you have a sample test question, which when you open up, you know, when you see your test 3, when it comes up in whatever it is, a couple weeks, you're gonna look, and the first thing you're gonna see is this whole big chart, just like this. And the first question is gonna be just like the first question here. What it's gonna say, you know, what's profit maximizing quantity? You're like, well, I don't know yet. You really should go to the second question or the third question and say, what price is going to be charged? So let me ask you that. What price will be charged given this money you have here?
20.
What price will the company charge? 20. How did you get that? You go to equilibrium. So if you don't, well, first of all, if you don't have a copy, right here. But if you don't know, see that, then please pass that, or please tell the people next to you. One more. Thank you.
Can I have one more, please?
Sure. Okay, so you look and you start from the advanced line. I know there's a bunch of other lines going in here on that paper, but just focus in on where the two intersect, draw the line across, and that is your short run. That tells you your short run price. Okay, and then from there you get the short run quantity. Okay, the other thing I'm going to put in here that's going to complicate the graph is the average cost curve. And we know from what we did before that the average cost curve is probably going to come in and intersect the marginal cost curve. So we'll draw it something like this. And it'll go like that. That's what average cost curves always look like. So we're not doing anything really special here. So here, this would be your average cost curve. So as you see, there's an average cost curve on the one that you're going to have for your test as well. So let's practice that. So what is the value of an average cost curve? Well, what the average cost curve is going to tell you is how much, on average, it costs to produce at every single level of output. So if my output level, let's say, this is my average cost curve. And this is quantity. So if I was to produce, let's just say 6, then my average cost would be whatever this is here. Let's just say, on average, if I was to produce 6, then my average cost would be about 10. Let's just say 10-ish. Okay, but if I produce 7, it's going to be here, and so on. Okay, so all the average cost curve is just telling you is how much it costs at every level of quantity. So in this case here, it looks like I'm minimizing my average cost right about here. That's the minimum point of the average cost curve. So the value of the average cost curve is to help us define the profit. So that's what we need the average cost curve. So to find profit, take the price minus the average cost times the quantity Q star. And that gives you your profit. Okay, so let me give you an example, all right? Let's just say that the price of the good that you're selling is equal to $12. And on average, right, the average cost, which is the average cost per unit that you make, is equal to $10. And you're producing 7 of them. So what would be your profit in this case? You don't need to look at a formula. But if the price was 12 and the average cost was 10, how much are you making per unit? How much? 2. And how many units are you making? Yeah, so you're making 7 units, so your profit is going to be equal to what? 14. So you don't need the formula. The formula is what you would have done in your head anyway. If I said to you just without looking at this, right? Your price you're charging is $25. Okay, for every unit you make, your price is $25. And on average, it's going to cost $15 to make the good. And you're going to sell 10 of them. What's your profit? 100. Okay, because you take your 25 minus your 15, that gives you 10. So you're making $10 per unit. And then you're multiplying that by the number of units that you sell. So I'll do a number, right? The price is equal to, we'll say the price is equal to 100. And on average, it's costing $80 to make it, and your quantity is going to be 20. So yeah, you're making perfect. You're doing great. Okay, so you make $20 per unit. This is, and then you're selling 20 units. So 20 times 20 is 400. Is that good? Yes.
Is the average cost going to be given, or?
You figure it out from over here. Yeah, it's given because I know what quantity I'm producing. The quantity that we're producing is right here. Okay, so if you look on your papers and you go to, the first thing you have to do is let's go to where let's find the profit maximizing quantity. So we go to get the profit maximizing quantity, we go to where the marginal revenue, which is right here, intersects the marginal cost, and that's right there. So on your papers, what would that amount be?
100.
What is it?
700.
700. Does everybody see that? You guys, if you don't see it, please take a minute and help the person next to you. If they don't get it, then help them. If you don't get it, then they should help you.
Is where the marginal cost is.
You go to where the marginal cost line, that's the demand line, intersects the marginal cost line, that's grouping line. Does everybody see where that intersects? 700. Yep. Does everyone see that? Take a minute. It's worth it to take a minute and just ask, because if you don't get this, then I'm going to lose you on the next step. So, just let me know. All right. So give me is there anybody who's
What does that determine? What does that determine?
That determines the profit maximizing quantity, which is really important because we need that for here. So in your case, you have it. In the case that you have, it's like 700. In our case, it's 7. Okay. Question? Going down. All right. So we go here to this point. We find that profit maximizing quantity. Now, to get the average cost, you go down to the average cost curve, and that's right there. Because, right, so I'm just saying, here's at this quantity, remember what this formula says is that at this quantity, I need to figure out what the price is and what the average cost is. So I'm going to start with the average cost. So at this quantity, so I find out the quantity, that's right here. I go up to the average cost curve, that's right there. and then my price is right here. And if I draw a line over this direction, then I get a box, and this is the profit box. The profit area. So in this case, the company is making a profit. And I can figure out the amount of profit because I can figure out what the average cost is, and I'm just going to estimate and just say it's about 10, right? Because really what it is specifically is I take the total cost and I divide it by the quantity, and so it's about 10. So I'm just going to say it's about 10, right? Because I don't really need to get too specific for this. So what would be this amount of profit? Anybody get it?
Oh, wait, on the question that you gave us?
Yeah.
21
Oh, no, I mean, on this question I'm giving you, what would be the amount of profit? You're ahead. 14. Okay, because my price is 12, the average cost is 10. So that means that the price is 12, the average cost is 10. So you're making $2 a unit and you're selling 7 units. So your profit in my question here is going to equal 14. And that could be in billions. Okay, so let's go back, right? Let's start over again for a second. Right? You have the average cost curve comes in here, it's always going to look like that. The marginal cost curve is always going to intersect the average at the minimum point of the average. So when I draw that, I draw through the bottom of the average. And then I find the profit maximizing quantity by going to where MR equals MC. So that's a really important point. I draw a line down, stop at the average cost curve, put a little dot, go all the way down here. Now, once I get this dot, I draw the line over and I show a profit area. So now, this is the short run picture. Okay, everything I said to you is in the short run because in the long run there is no profit. That's one of the assumptions. Okay, so is everybody okay with this? Before I think I'm going to do is I'm going to erase it and just give you one more. I'm going to erase it and do it one more time. So I'm not going to use this. Here's what we'll do, okay? We'll do the same thing over again. I'm going to draw a demand curve and a supply curve for the industry. It's a big cube. Price. And then next to it, I'm going to draw the only thing that I need to draw the cost curves. So I'll do the marginal cost curve, looks like that. And the average cost curve looks like this, and now we'll let the games begin. All right. So who wants to show me? Who wants to show me where to put the demand curve? Who wants to come up and draw in the price for one, but the demand curve for the other? Who wants to try to do that? Anyone?
Is this just a random problem?
Yeah. Yep. You don't even need the numbers. All you have here is a graph. So just now what you have to do is show how do I start with this? Wow, you can do this. Nice big piece of chalk to work with. All right. Equilibrium. Okay. And, oh yeah. All right, congratulations. Just added a point to your exam. Plus 1. Good job. Okay, so that was not too hard, right? So she actually got us the Q star and the price, and where would the demand curve be? gotta finish your point out. So we just put this as our, also our demand curve, marginal revenue line, price, right, all that's in there. Okay, who wants to show me the profit maximizing quantity that this company will be producing? Here, come up. Taylor, are you coming up, or are you just like stretching? What was it? I saw it go up and down.
Is it just a back?
Now you, well, you have to drop one down here, one. Sure? Well, go here first. All right, and then. Okay, cool. Couldn't do it. Next question, all right.
What is it, this one?
Can you explain how you got that point?
It's the cost, it's the intersection between the marginal cost and the demand.
What is that called again?
That's the maximum quantity, profit maximum.
Profit maximizing quantity, or a point. Well done. So she found the Q star, right? Looking pretty good. And you guys, thank you. Okay, and does anybody want to try define the profit box? This is the hardest one.
Yeah.
All right, so you want this one? I'm giving you a chance.
Yeah,
You're not gonna get it. I said, if you're not gonna, you sure? You're cool.
Is that shading?
You can shoot it again.
Yes.
You got this.
Stop.
I have a fan club, right? Got we all back there cheering on. You have to go, what's your starting point? Why there?
I don't know how to explain it. So it's not right? No, it's not right.
Okay, we have to, at least you can get it. That's okay. We'll share some more. All right. Tell us. Yes, that's it, yeah, on that line, yeah, put a dot there, so we know, right? Cheers. Good job, good job. All right, so we go. I gotta make sure I mark these down so I don't forget. All right, so we're at, so now we have everything that's possible, all you need for the short run. It's all done by hand. And so you could look at all those questions in the short run, and which are questions 1 through 7, and you should be able to answer them. And if there are numbers here, which there, we don't have numbers in this in question, but I could put numbers in and just say, this is 25, and this is 20, and this is 15. And if I give you those numbers, then all you have to do is go back over to that formula and say, price minus average cost would be 5 times 15, so the profit in this case would be 75. Okay, the 5 times 15. So you could do that if you have the numbers. All right, that's great, and here's the rest of the story. Okay, so now what you do in the short run, you always go from the industry to the firm. So just, I know that sounds like, write that down, okay? In the short run, we always start with the industry and go to the firm. In the short run. In the long run, you always start with the firm and go to the industry. In the long run, you start with the firm and go to the industry. Yeah.
So on the sheet, what will number 4 be? 702?
Quantity the firm will produce was 700. And the industry was 2,800. And there'll be more questions that I'll put in there, but just one more question, but that looks good so far. Okay? All right, so the next part of this story is this, right? So we have this company and they're making profit. So it'd be like saying this. You have this company that's where you mow lawns, all right? So landscaping service. And you realize that, all right, the person who mows lawns is making $200,000 a year. What do you think would happen? If you can make $200,000 a year mowing lawns, more people would start mowing lawns, right? I have a friend I know that during the good times, right, during the 2000 to 2007 era, he was painting houses and bringing in about $350. Painting houses, guys, $350,000 a year painting houses. Yeah, that's what I thought too. And I'm again, and so that's like 300, and he didn't even paint the house. He hired a crew to do it, and he would just. That's how it was. Absolutely amazing. And this guy's house was ginormous, and etc. And it's absolutely incredible. So I thought to myself, who needs to really teach econ? I should be painting houses because they're going to get a lot more money doing that. And I can paint. I like painting. It's cool, right? So, but anyway. So my point is this: in an industry where it's easy to enter, if it's free to enter and there's profit to be made, then more people will enter. Okay, and that's the next part of the story. Is in the short run, if there's profit, then if there's economic profit, then in the long run, companies will enter. More companies will enter. So what happens is this. We would say, well, when more companies enter, we have to go to the industry side of this and say, if they enter, then that's going to shift the supply curve. The industry supply curve is going to shift to the right. Because if more companies enter, right, so if the number of suppliers goes up, so if more companies enter, then supply curve, the industry supply curve, shifts right. And if that happens, let's just draw this kind of mini, supply curve so I don't have to mess up the whole graph. But let's just say we have the supply shifts that way. So we have a new supply curve. So now we're no longer on this supply curve. We're now on this supply curve. Because more companies enter, that shifts the supply curve to the right. And when that happened, we go from this equilibrium as an industry to this equilibrium. So tell me what happened to the price when I shifted to the right.
Down.
The price went down. So if the price goes down for the industry, it's going to go down for the whole industry. It goes down for every single company within the industry. So now we have this new price that would go all the way down here. So we have a new demand curve, we call it D prime, a new margin of revenue prime, called MR prime. But look what happened is when the supply increased, everybody in the industry started charging lower price. And so that carries on over here. So what happened to the profit? It went down, exactly. It went down. It went from here to here. So now we have a smaller profit box. And don't worry, this is a transition, so I know it's messy. But now our profit box is in here. But there's still profit. So what's going to happen? If there's still profit, then what happens next? More companies keep entering. So instead of making, $200,000 mowing lawns, you're now making $150,000. That's okay. Hey, $150,000 is still good earnings. So more companies will enter, and more companies will enter, and what will happen is this will continue. More companies will enter, and it will continue until there is no more profit. So in the short run, there could be profit. But in the long run, more companies keep entering and entering and entering until there is no more profit. So this is sort of a transition graph. Let me show you what the real graph would look like. If you think about the average cost curve looks like this, and the marginal cost curve looks like that. It always does, okay? It did when we covered cost curves, and it's going to do that for the rest of the semester. And we have a demand line over here, and a supply line over here. So we'll just start out, in this case, like this is our industry, and this is our firm. So there's our firm, here's our industry. And I'm going to go from short run to long run. So here's what would happen, okay? This is the big part that's going to get you 17 questions right on the test. Okay. So here's what happens. We start here, right? In the short run, we go from the industry to the company. That will be our profit maximizing price. This is our demand curve, our marginal revenue line, price charged in the industry. In this case, as you can see, the price is above the average cost, so there's profit. So what will happen is more companies will enter and enter and enter until there is no more profit. And the point where there is no more profit is at the minimum point of the average cost curve. So the point where there is no more profit is the minimum point of the average cost curve, because a company cannot charge less than the minimum point of the average cost curve. So if you go back over here to this cost curve, and just say we have a cost curve that looks like this, this would be the lowest price they could charge. So let's just say that becomes the price. If they charge this price, they make money, but so does everybody else in the industry. If they charge this price, they make money, but so does everybody else. So that means that more companies will enter. If they charge this price here, then this price is the lowest they could charge. They can't charge below it, because if they did, what would happen? They'd lose money. So what we are searching for in the long run, we're searching for the point where the marginal cost curve intersects the average cost curve, because that's the minimum point of the average cost curve. So you just go to the bottom of this average cost curve, right there. And we're going to draw a demand curve right through that point. And I'm going to call that the long run demand curve. Does everybody see why we would do that? Yes or no?
Explain it again.
Sure. Okay. We go to the minimum point of the average cost curve, because when the company produces here, there is no more profit. And if there's still profit, then more companies will enter. If we're negative profit, then companies will leave. And so if profit's below zero, companies will leave. If profit's above zero, companies will enter. So when will it be at equilibrium? It'll be at equilibrium when the profit is equal to zero. In other words, they're making what they should make. That's what profit means zero is. You're making what you should make. Doesn't mean you're making zero, it means you're making what you should make. Okay? So in the long run, companies will enter and enter and enter until the point where there's no more economic profit. And I think I gave you this example before, guys. When I was I'm going to say growing up, when I was in college, becoming a lawyer was really popular. And so what happened is these lawyers at that time were making, a couple $100,000 a year, and they were doing really, really well. And then a bunch of people started to become lawyers. And I remember one of my brother's friends, when he first became a lawyer, he got a job making like $12 an hour. Because there were so many lawyers out there. Right? So what do you think happens then? Well, people say, well, I'm not going to go into that field anymore. Why do I need to spend another 3 years in school if I'm going to make $12 an hour? I can make that being working at Walmart or something. Okay? So the the point is that when there's profit, more will enter. When there's no more profit, then people won't enter, right? They'll stop. So here's what happens. We draw that line all the way across, all the way across, all the way across to here. And what I'm going to put here is a supply curve. So I take that point, and that's going to be my long run supply curve. So companies kept entering and entering and entering, and as they enter, the supply curve shifts, right? As companies enter, the supply curve shifts to the right, it keeps going and going and going, and for some reason it stops right here. Why does it stop there?
More profit.
Because there's no more profit. What if it kept going and companies kept entering? What would happen? Well, the price would have gone down here. It would have been really low, like right down here, and the companies would have lost money. So they've been like, oh, I can't stay in this industry. So it would have went right back here, and companies would have left. And if it kind of stopped here, then there would have been profit, and more companies enter and enter and enter. So it comes here and it stops. And that's long run equilibrium. So if you look at your graph, can you draw in the line or show me the price or tell me the price that would be the long run equilibrium price?
16.
16. The answer is 16. So if you can if you don't see that, then please look at the person next to you and talk to them for a second and see if you guys can figure it out together or they can explain.
Can you repeat that question?
Yes. What one?
Can you repeat the question?
The question is, what would be the long run equilibrium price? On the sample test question. Yes. Okay, yes.
What would be the firm supply curve?
I'm going to wait till next time to go over that.
Okay.
But I can tell you, it just takes a few minutes to explain. I want to make sure we get all this first.
Gotcha.
Okay, but that's the kind of the closing part of this is firm. Yeah, I know the question. What's the supply curve for the month? Okay. I'm kidding. They just asked that question. What's your question? Was it? Was it? He just asked it. He just asked it. All right. Anybody else want to ask the supply curve firm question? No, it'll come. I'll do the question seems to be what's the supply curve for the firm. I'll do that next class because it takes a little time to explain. Any other questions here?
Profit is 0, right?
Yeah. So let's go through this and let me walk through it again. All right, and we'll do it like in the. I know I keep drawing pictures up here for you, but the best way for us to stay clear is for me to start all over again. So I'll do this I'll do this picture here, and then you guys can relate it to the question that you have. Maybe I'll even get some more points out. So we have the demand curve and the supply curve. And here's marginal cost curve. And I draw just in case you don't know, the average cost, I just pick a point on the marginal cost curve. I go up this way and up that way with it. Because that's what the average cost is going to do. It's going to intersect its minimum point. Okay? So, short run. Ready for this, okay? Remember what I said before. In the short run, we start with what? Industry. So the short run, we do the industry. I'm just going to dot this, go over. That's the price. I'll keep dotting it so it doesn't mess up our graph too much. So this would be the short run price. I'll P star. There's obviously some profit here. This will be the profit box. Okay. So you can see that. In the long run, what would be the long run price and the long run industry supply? So who will go? Yeah, you use your point. All right, let's see. 100, run up. All right, which one are you gonna show us?
The, long run.
You gonna do the price first? Do the price first, okay? So the price and the long run. Pressure's on. I like that. Got it. Good job. What's the last name?
Balance.
Okay. Awesome. All right, what do you think? We're getting this? It's just gonna take a little practice, right? But it's once you get like the first part, you kind of, you know, once you get the first part, you answer all those 7 questions, then you get the long part, long run line, and now you can answer all the other questions. Because now you get, what's the price? The price in our graph there was like 16, and then you find the quantity here. What was the short run, or long run quantity produced? We'll get that.
400?
What's in the long run, what is the quantity produced?
400.
400. Okay? So here's another one that's gonna hopefully help you. It's not, and I don't know if I can ask. Yeah, put number 15. How many firms are in this industry? Okay, so I'm going to answer that question. Right? So in the short run, we had an equilibrium. When I went down here, what was this number? It was like 2,800, right? Okay. And this was how much was the company producing in the short run? 700. So in economics, it's pretty simple assumption. We just assume that all the companies in the industry are the same size. So if all the companies in the industry are the same size, that means that there's 2,800 being produced in the industry, but there's one company is doing 700. So the way that you figure out the number of companies in the industry is you just take the big Q and divide it by the little q, and that gives you the number of firms. So what would that be equal to in this question? We have 2,800. Yeah, so it's 2,800 divided by 700. So there would be 4 companies in the industry, and each of those 4 companies are producing 700. Then what happens? In the long run, the industry, there's more companies that enter. We can actually figure out how many. What's this number here on your papers? 3,200. And what is the number going down here from your minimum? How much were you producing in the long run? What's it? It's 36. It's 36. It would be, is it 36? Yeah, it is 36. Okay, and then the other number here was, so that's 36, and how much is the individual company producing? 400. So tell me how many companies are in there in the long run. Okay? So what happened is there was a original price of 20. The companies in the industry were making profit. They were producing 700 units each, and the industry was producing 2,800 units. Then, because of the profit, more companies entered. They kept entering and entering and entering until there was no longer any profit. At the end, the individual company was producing 400, and the industry is producing 3,600. So now there's more companies, but each of the companies is charging a lower price and selling a lower quantity. Okay? Is that it? So we'll review it again next time, but I want to give you a little time to do your little bonus quiz. Yes?
For 12, for the profit in the long run, and since marginal profit and average profit are the same, we just use 0.
Yeah, that's like a question, as soon as you get your exam, you can write that in. You know, as soon as you see, what's the problem